Sporting Journal Radio, presented by Onyx.
All right, this is the Sporting Journal Radio show, Sporting Journal Radio podcast, depending on where you're listening to this. If it's on the radio, thanks for tuning in on this station right here, or if you're got the podcast rolling, thanks for downloading the podcast or listening on demand at sportingjournalradio.com. I'm Brett Amundsen. We're in Branson. We're at the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers Conference right now. Here we've got a bunch of stuff going on, so we got to make this kind of quick. But we wanted to have our next guest on the show because he's new to Aglow. He won a scholarship here this year, and we're going to find out all about all of that. It's Ali Shakoor. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, where are you from?
I am from Jackson, Michigan originally. Now I'm in Dearborn, Michigan, which is just outside of Detroit.
All right, and what do you think of the conference so far?
Oh man, it's been a blast. I came in expecting for it to be professional, but I had no idea that the people here would be so warm and receptive. Everyone's come up and introduced themselves and offered any kind of help and asked me if I needed anything, made sure I've been comfortable. So I've been really impressed. I do a lot of conferences, a lot of scientific conferences, and I've been really impressed. I've had a ball, and I've had such a good time that I'll definitely be back for another one of these.
Oh, well, when you talk about professional and scientific conferences, this is probably a bit of a change of pace. I mean, we're professional here, but we like to have a little bit of fun. It's pretty relaxing.
Yeah, and we have fun as well. But you know, they're the same in that everyone there is passionate about the work that they do.
Sure.
You know, so there's a common thread. And again, with my career and the schoolwork that I do, there's a common thread with natural resources and dealing with different ecosystems and whatnot. So there is a lot of overlap with those things. So it's not as different as you would think it would be.
Well, give us your background. What are you talking about?
So I am a biologist. I'm an aquatic ecologist by trade. I'm finishing up a master's degree from the School of Natural Resources at the University of Michigan, School of Natural Resources. Finishing up a doctorate at Wayne State University in Detroit. So for my dissertation research, I'm studying harmful algal blooms on Lake Erie.
Oh, really?
Their effect on early life history of walleye. I'm also doing some tracking of those blooms, how they move around the lake. So I use a multi-beam echo sonar, just a sophisticated, a bigger version of a sonar on your boat. It has 4 beams, so we actually map subsurface concentration of blue-green algae and then fish communities associated with that. So we compare inside the bloom versus outside the bloom and see if they're relating to it and everything, because you know there's some issues with some toxins and questions about whether it can affect their health and get into the flesh that people consume. So kind of some timely research with the increase of harmful algal blooms on Lake Erie, but it's really cool work.
Yeah, what's causing that on Lake Erie?
So those blooms are being caused by runoff. The Maumee River has the highest sediment load of any river that's tributary to Great Lakes, and it comes through a lot of farm country. It's not just the Maumee River, and it's not just the farmers. So I don't want that to get out there. But you have a lot of phosphorus and nitrogen that gets pushed into the lake.
Yeah.
You have some legacy compounds also that are already in the system. And so we have surface temperatures that are warming earlier in the year, staying warm later in the year, so the growing season is really kind of long. So when you have springs with a high amount of rainfall, those blooms can get really bad. In 2014, the blooms got so bad, and we had a lot of northeast winds that the Toledo water intake was inundated with harmful algal bloom. 400,000 people in southeastern lower Michigan and northwestern Ohio lost their water supply for a week.
Wow.
So this isn't just a fish health thing or an outdoor thing. This is a people
Clean
thing
water.
also. Yeah, so clean water, of course, so very important.
How is it affecting the walleyes?
Some of the stuff I found in the papers in revision right now, it's been submitted to be published in the Journal of Great Lakes Research. I did see that there was effect in survival of larval walleye. And people will say, well, the walleye population is doing so well right now, but these kind of effects are compounding over the years. So if things would have changed a little bit and you really get a spatial overlap, a spatial and temporal overlap with the walleye spawn and the harmful algal bloom, you could potentially see some population level effects. But again, these toxins could possibly make it into the flesh of these fish, and walleye is king on Lake Erie, and it supports a $200 or so million fishery that's part of a larger $8 billion sport fishery in the Great Lakes. So again, very timely work, very, very important. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
So if it gets into that flesh, then that could affect somebody's meal essentially, and what effect could humans have off of that?
Well, microcystis and their associated toxins, microcystins, they can be neurotoxic or hepatotoxic. In Ohio, in Grand Lake St. Mary's, which is outside of the Lake Erie watershed, they have bloom issues. It's an inland lake. There were some families who lost family pets. They had dogs who died after playing in that water. Some of the people ended up with some liver damage. I've seen some reports and read some news articles about other countries where elderly people with compromised immune systems have actually gotten in some real health issues, and actually, there was some deaths associated with it.
And they're getting that from the water, though.
They're getting it from the water.
Meat could transmit that.
It could, and I've seen studies from Grand Lake St. Mary saying that some of the toxins will make it into the flesh of some of the panfish there.
Okay.
So again, really important, and it ties into, get back to my background, I'm also a tournament fisherman.
Oh, really?
So I fish the Cabela's Master Walleye Circuit and the National Walleye Tour. So the whole walleye thing it all ties together in a nice, neat little bow.
So just going back to the research for one more question. So you're using that 4-beam sonar. Are you looking for walleyes in the blooms and then trying to capture those to sample them, or how do you put?
So normally when you do hydroacoustic work, you ground proof and you put a net out you kind of to back up. If you think they're walleye, or you think they're smallmouth bass, whatever the case may be, you ground proof it. But we're not doing any ground proofing yet. So what we are doing is we're measuring, and it's pretty sophisticated. It's very we're picking up individual cells of blue-green algae. So we're mapping and then the 4 beams together, you can kind of pick up the biological backscatter. So you can pick up, I'll see schools of bait fish and I'll see other schools of fish. So then what I'm going to do is I'll have some real-time monitoring that NOAA does. Toxicity, pH, water temperature, things of that nature. But also there's a lot of acoustic telemetry where they're tracking fish movements. And this is where being able to identify fish comes into play. So they're tracking lake whitefish, walleye, grass carp, sturgeon, muskie. So I'll be able to overlay those fish movements with satellite imagery or low-flying airplane imagery of the bloom to see how those fish are relating to that bloom on Lake Erie.
I definitely thought you were going to say low-flying saucers for a second there. I was like, well, there's aliens involved.
That would be a heck of a reveal on your podcast
research.
here. Yeah,
wow.
Some old Area 51 type stuff going on. Yeah, for sure.
So what made you want to do this study? And is there other study? Obviously we're from Minnesota, and walleye is king there, and we live in farm country, a lot of rivers, and so that's something that could hit close to home for us. Do you know if there's other research like that going on?
There's research like this going on all over the planet. So harmful algal blooms are becoming a problem in Lake Taihu, China, Lake Titicaca in Nicaragua, Lake Ontario, Lake Winnipeg. There's an issue with harmful algal blooms. So it's happening all over the world, not just in large lakes, but in small farm ponds, in different sized bodies of water because of some different issues and everything. So this type of research is applicable and could reveal some of the things that are going on pretty much, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world in that same kind of latitude where those types of blooms kind of happen. But there's a lot of neat research out there involving harmful algal blooms and fish, terrestrial health, birds. So people are really starting to look at this now. So very applicable to the state of Minnesota also. Yeah,
I love that stuff. And not just the research into what's affecting the health of our fisheries, but being able to track fish too. I love learning about migration patterns, whether it's fish or waterfowl or whatever the case may be. Just learning behaviors, because there's so much of that involves how much success a guy has on the water. A lot of people, it's our limits are too high, or we can't use 2 lines, or muskies are eating all our walleyes, whatever. For sure. But there's so much more research and work that gets done in the background and projects like this that really affect our fisheries and can mean success in the long run.
Yeah, there are, and that's kind of the niche I'm, kind of put myself in the past few years. So I do a lot of seminars and outreach. I've been at National Professional Anglers Association. I do a lot of stuff back home in a few other states. I have a passion for communicating science to people who don't normally get to see it. Because like you said, people have these complaints. The muskie are eating the walleye, the limit's too low, the limit's too high. And a lot of times they only get that decision from the DNR. Hey, we're going to change the limit. But they don't get to hear, well, this went into it. This was a thought process. Well, they do a little bit, but there's a lot of times they don't listen, or there's a distrust. Being an angler, being a tournament fisherman, and being able to link what the person who lives on the Detroit River or any other river for that matter, with some of the things that are going on ecologically, and have a conversation with them, I think kind of draws people in that are really interested in hearing about those type of things.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you live in both worlds, and sometimes I think, and don't take offense to this, but sometimes biologists, like our DNR in Minnesota, sometimes they're not always the best communicators to get the message out to the public, and they're too busy doing research or whatever. They're not professional communicators. They're it's science. It's not communicating. So sometimes that, and they're getting better at it.
Yeah.
They know that that's been a problem. In the last few years, they've actually done a really good job improving that, and they've hired some more communicators to help spread the message.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of DNR offices and state, natural resource commissions are hiring communications people because, a lot of them now are short-staffed.
Yeah.
You have the biologists who used to kind of be in the office taking care of everything and coordinating. They're actually out in the field now. And I see it, as a tournament guy, a lot of times before I go to a place, I'll call a biologist to ask, hey, what's going on and everything. And a lot of times they just sound swamped, Yeah. And so having that communicator is good. And like you said, it's not that they don't want to take the time. A lot of times they're just so darn busy. And again, it's not, they're trained to crunch numbers and do the research and everything and, pass that data on to someone else who may communicate it. And I see that disconnect. Something else that I try to do on some of the projects I've worked on is to ask the public. And I mentioned it the other day when I was talking up front, where if I pull up to a boat launch and I'm there to sample or something, I see someone who's lived on that lake for 75 years, I'm going to ask them, hey, how was this lake when you were a kid? How is it now? Tell me the differences you see. What's happened over time? He may not have a hardcore data set, but he's been on that lake every day for 75 years.
Yeah.
And that, it's just like indigenous knowledge. It's important that, he's in tune with what's going on. So there's been a disconnect, I think, on both sides. The little things that I try to do, for the past couple of years is try to bridge that gap as best I can with the people around me because, this is a lifestyle, right? We do this kind of thing because we love it,
Yeah.
I got it from my father.
Did you?
He got it from his father.
Okay.
And so, I want to pass it on to my children, to my daughters. And sometimes I feel like I'm the last of a dying breed because there's been this rate of attrition and we're not getting people back in. So we have to communicate these types of things and draw people in from diverse backgrounds and draw some scientists in to be more communicators and get out in the field and everything. So that's kind of, where my passion lies and why I wanted to come to Aglow to bridge that gap a little bit and to try to become a better communicator in other type media.
Was your dad and grandfather, were they walleye guys, or what did you grow up, what did they teach you?
I grew up, my father was a big bluegill maniac. He would drive, I'll never forget, I was maybe 12, 13, weekend fisherman, of course, and there was an article about there, we were in Michigan, Jackson, Michigan, Irish Hills area down by the racetrack, and there was an article about big bluegill being caught in Detroit lakes, Minnesota, and I'll never forget. Let's get a lake map, let's go. And that was the kind of person he was. So that sense of adventure, hey, if there's a bite somewhere, I'll go figure it out, let's go. So I got that from him, that sense of adventure. Later on in life, I got into walleye. So with him, it was pike, panfish, big crappie, big bluegill, a lot of largemouth bass fishing. The walleye came a touch later. I took that and ran with it. But yeah, I came up doing that and then, chasing bunnies, squirrel hunting. Pheasant was really big when I was a kid. There aren't too many, there's some, but nothing like it used to be. So just growing up hunting and fishing, it was a lifestyle. Every Thursday, Thanksgiving morning before we ate, we go bunny hunting.
Yeah.
Picking up brush piles and everything. So it was ingrained in me from an early age. So it's something I'll always be around. It's something that I'll do until my dying day, God willing.
What got you into tournament fishing then?
Actually, I started fishing. My father, God rest his soul, passed away in 2012. And growing up, we'd always watch Bass Masters on TV, and we see this stuff, and we'd always say, man, we're good anglers. We could do that. We could hang out with those guys. And he passed in 2012, and that winter, I kind of made some changes in my life. And I thought to myself, one of the worst things you can hear is someone on their deathbed say, I wish I'd done this. I wish we'd done that. I wish I'd done that. And I thought about that really hard. And that next spring, I was like, I'm going to make that leap. And I started fishing the Master Walleye circuit in 2012 and, got sucked in, had some success. I've been fortunate to win a couple events and make some championships. So,
really? Nice.
Yeah, it was kind of, the impetus was, again, doing those things with my father and, just seeing him pass. And just thinking back, I didn't want to have any regrets. You know, as far as I know, I'm here one time, and I want to see and do it all. So I've been doing it ever since, and just loving every minute of it.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to do some fishing down here?
I did. I got up on Table Rock. You know, we caught some smallmouth bass, some spotted bass. Legendary Table Rock Lake. I had a ball out there. Yeah. Today we got down in Lake Tillamook, just some trout fishing, some rainbows. We didn't get a big one, but we saw a giant brown trout down there. And I tell you, this area, man, it rivals anywhere I've ever been. The scenery is beautiful. The people are beautiful, friendly. The natural resources, the fishing is top notch.
Yeah.
Just a beautiful place, and so happy to be here.
What do you think of the conference and the Aglow? Your first impressions of Aglow?
First impression, again, the people, just very professional, very welcoming, very warm, willing to go out of their way to help me. I've got so many cards and contact. Hey, if you ever need anything, and even while I'm here, hey, come sit down, let's talk. You know, and so very welcoming. They've made me feel like I've been a member of Aglow for 10 years.
How did you got a scholarship?
I did. So I got a scholarship from the National Wild Turkey Federation. Thank you very much for the scholarship. Mark Schoonveld and Lance Valentine nominated me for that, so I have to give a big shout out to those two gentlemen. But I was fortunate enough to be awarded that scholarship, which covered costs to come down here and attend the conference, pay for my conference fees. But it's something that I've wanted to do anyway. A couple of people I've talked to who are outdoor writers who know me pretty well over the years, I said, hey, you need to kind of start doing this type of thing and becoming a member of Aglow will help facilitate that. So winning the scholarship is not the only reason I'm here. Let me put that out there.
Sure.
But again, it's been just a fantastic opportunity, and I've had a great time.
Well, it was nice to meet you. Sounds like, I mean, that research is fascinating to me. Good luck in all that research, and good luck in the fishing and tournaments and all that. And if you want to do some pheasant hunting, let me know. Come on out.
Yes, sir. I'd love to do some pheasant hunting, and maybe when I get this project wrapped up, I can come back on and we can kind of talk about some things again, and
absolutely
talk about the results of my research and kind of some next steps that we're looking at taking with that.
Yeah, for sure. Where do we find you online?
So you can find me, I'm on Facebook, on my personal page, Ali Shakoor, and I have a secondary page, Ali Shakoor Fishing. I'm also on Instagram at Ali Shakoor Fishing, and I'm on Twitter, Ali Shakoor. My handle is @FishScienceDude. So reach out, any of your questions, comments, concerns about my research, about fishing, or anything else. I always love to hear from the public.
All right, Ollie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hear more at sportingjournalradio.com or wherever you get podcasts.
Devil's Lake is legendary, and this summer has been legendary for walleyes. Don't miss out. Call Haybale Heights Campground and Resort today to book one of their modern cabins on East Bay. The cabins are furnished with a full bathroom, kitchen, and all the amenities like high-speed internet, and are clean following CDC guidelines. Staying at Haybale Heights gives you full access to a private boat launch, fish cleaning station, and beach area. Learn more at haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. Plan your trip to legendary Devil's Lake today.